A 27-degree spring night can turn lettuce into green glass if your greenhouse heater can't keep up. Welcome to RootInsect.com.
And if you've ever done the 2 a.m. muddy boot flashlight walk to check seedlings, you know frost protection is not theoretical. It's very personal.
Today we're talking small greenhouse heat, specifically electric heaters for that 6x8 to 10x12 backyard range. Not heating a tropical orchid palace, we're talking, can I keep starts and greens above freezing?
Right, and that distinction matters. A lot of people shop for a heater expecting it to make a thin plastic greenhouse feel like a living room. But a 1,500-watt electric heater is still a 1,500-watt electric heater. The magic is really in sealing gaps, moving air, and not letting the thermostat act like it's had too much coffee.
The test setup was pretty relatable too. A 6x8 twin-wall polycarbonate greenhouse, a draftier 10x12 hoop-style house, a basic plug-in power meter, a couple of ThermoPro sensors, and apparently a deep emotional relationship with cold nighttime chores.
I felt seen by that. I've stood outside in pajamas and rubber boots, trying to decide if the broccoli seedlings looked slightly stressed, or if I was just cold and dramatic.
The heater that came out on top was the Dr. Infrared Heater DR968, the 1,500-watt portable model. Not because it's perfect, but because it held heat more evenly than the smaller ceramic tower heaters and didn't swing as wildly as the bargain milkhouse heater.
The evenness is the big thing. In the 6x8, it was able to keep the air above freezing on nights in the high 20s and low 30s. But that was with the door sealed and 2 5-gallon water jugs under the bench acting as thermal mass. That water doesn't sound exciting, but it stores heat and slows the temperature drop.
I love that the conclusion wasn't, buy a bigger heater and ignore the leaks. In the 10x12, the heater only really behaved once the gaps around the base were dealt with.
Exactly. A rolled towel at the door and greenhouse tape along a low seam made more difference than swapping heaters. That's the unglamorous truth. If your greenhouse is leaky, you're basically paying to warm the neighborhood, and the neighborhood will not thank you with tomatoes.
Now, the DR968 did well with air movement. The fan pushed warm air down the aisle instead of roasting one corner and leaving lower flats chilly.
In the 10x12, it still needed a little help from a clip fan on the far end. Not another heat source, just air circulation. That's a really good trick, because stratified air can fool you. The sensor at bench height might say one thing, while cold pockets sit down around trays.
I'll admit, I like the shape too. It's squat and cabinet-like. Towers always make me nervous in a greenhouse.
See, I disagree slightly. I like towers in theory because they take up less floor space.
In theory, yes. In a real March greenhouse, with hoses, seed trays, a half-open bag of potting mix, and one bucket you keep kicking?
Fine. In real life, squat wins. The DR968 is bulky, though. In a tight 6x8 with a narrow aisle, you'll notice it. The test placed it on a flat concrete paver near the door, aimed down the aisle, with a couple feet of clearance in front. That's sensible, but it does steal space.
Let's talk thermostats. Because built-in heater thermostats can be a little optimistic.
That's polite. I'd say don't trust the number on the heater like it's scientific equipment. The DR968 cycled more calmly than the cheap dial heater, but on the coldest night, using an independent plug-in thermostat made sense. Put a separate sensor near the plants, not right beside the heater, so you're controlling for the temperature your seedlings actually feel.
And we need the safety sermon because greenhouses are wet, dirty, and full of ways to make electricity a bad idea.
Sermon accepted. This is not a wet location commercial greenhouse heater. Don't run it while misting trays. Don't set it under roof drips. Don't use a crusty old orange extension cord that's been living behind the shed since 2009. Use a proper outlet setup, keep it elevated on something stable like a paver, give it clearance, and treat electricity in a damp space with respect.
So the takeaway is, for frost protection in a reasonably sealed 6x8, or a tightened up 10 by 12 with some airflow help, the Dr. Infrared DR968 was the strongest pick in this test.
But don't skip the boring fixes. Seal the door, tape the low seams, add thermal mass, use a separate thermometer, and move the air. A decent heater in a bad greenhouse is still going to struggle.
And maybe set one alarm instead of doing 6 nervous flashlight checks.
You say that like you won't still check.
I didn't say I was healed.
Thank you for listening to this edition of RudeInsect.com, Conversations with Grant and Fiona.